Hello and welcome to the session. In today's session, we will be discussing three main issues relating to staff management. These three main issues are the recruitment, the motivation, and appraisal. In fact, the three central issues which concern the staff of any organization. But before we begin our discussion on these three central issues, one prime concern which faces or which comes to or in fore to us is what are the basic job requirements on which we will be recruiting somebody. Well, for that we have to look into something called job description. So let us look into what job description means. Job description is a broad statement of purpose, duties, and responsibilities of a job or position. Number two, it is obtained from job analysis. So in nutshell, what we are trying to say, job description is just an introduction of basic details about a job a person will be doing. Probably it is required, this is the key thing which is required if you are going for the process of recruitment. Otherwise, there is no point. The second thing which our slide showed you was about the job analysis. Now, what is job analysis? It is a process of examining a job to identify its component parts and circumstances in which it is performed. In a nutshell, what we are trying to say here, we are trying to say a job is thoroughly analyzed, is gone through by experts, and then a documentation is prepared for it on the basis of various fine details, and that particular thing is called job description. And that is what will be key thing for any recruitment process. So what are the key essential features of job description should be? Well, those are, number one, job title should indicate a close association with the expected job function. I would like to point out here, what is in the name kind of concept doesn't work. Job description, the title, should be indicative of some of the responsibilities or the type of responsibilities which are contemporary to that kind of job. Gives an immediate feedback to the person. Just by knowing the name, you know many things. Quite essential to have a meaningful, standardized job description. Reporting to whom it is or is he directly responsible. Reporting to him. Job titles directly reporting to him. So these 2 points are very, very straightforward. Like to whom he will be reporting, to the managing director or the company director. In software company, to whom you will be reporting, the group leader or anybody else. The next thing which we should tell in the job description happens to be the job responsibilities. Well, overall responsibilities basically conveys broad picture of the job and establish the role of job holder and contribution he makes towards achieving the objectives of the company and his own function or unit. A very heavy definition. But in a basics, what we are trying to tell, suppose you are employed as a software engineer. What will be your responsibilities? Well, the very first responsibility might be to see to it that the project goes to the completion in a defined period of time. Similarly, you can define other responsibilities in this particular context. The next thing which we need to define is the main tasks which are involved in the job. Well, those basically are identify and list the tasks, analyze and group related tasks, decide on order. And what should be the basis of ordering of those particular tasks? Maybe frequency and the importance. Describe each main task separately, amplify with any quantitative measure. So in job analysis, not only we are basically describing the tasks, like these are the tasks, project management task. In the project management you have to watch each and every stage. Okay, we are not only describing the task, but at some point of time we are also describing how to measure your job. Probably an indicator of performance appraisal is brought out at this point of time. May not be the motivating factor. The next factor is how to do the basic analysis or find the basic requirements of the job. Well, for that a sort of something called factor analysis is done. And what does factor analysis mean? To analyze the job in terms of the factors that will be used to evaluate it. Okay. After all, job description will be related to many things, especially compensation package and so many other things. So this particular point is extremely important. What does the factor analysis of the basic facets and factor analysis includes? The decision, complexity, knowledge and skills. So these are the three basic factors or points which we would like to see from the analysis point of view as far as job is concerned. Let us quickly go through them one by one. What are the things which we are looking in decisions? Well, we are looking for authority for making decisions. What kind of authorities will be given to this particular job? What are the importance of those decisions with regard to impact on the results achieved? The difficulty in making decisions, right? The extent to which originality or creativity required. The time span over which the decision is made. Well, these are all the factors relating to decision making. Complexity is analyzed in terms of the number of units, functions or separate management positions you are basically going to address or handle, directly controlled by job holders. So basically, what are the things you are directly addressing to? The variety of tasks that have to be carried out or problem that is to be solved. Now the complexity of problem for the computer systems, computer related systems, one of the key problem complexity reducing mechanism is object oriented programming, and you deal with complex situation. You deal with systems analysis and design. That is a complexity reduction mechanism. At what level of hierarchy you are working, that basically determines the complexity of the job. Knowledge and skill, professional or technical, man management, administration. So what kind of knowledge or skill will be required by you for doing a particular job? Let's take once again an example of where industry or an industry where you will be going. You will be going as a technical person, but there will be somebody, with having some computer professional knowledge, who will be there to do human resource management. There will be somebody who will be looking after the day-to-day administration. So what kind of job exactly you are going to, and what are the basic factors required in this particular job. Once you have dealt with all these details, what will you come up with? The job description. The details then now can be written. Will this be the responsibility of you? Probably yes, after a period of time. Over a period of time, you must try to see what kind of jobs you want. For example, initially you will be required to go through what kind of package you are going to use during the system analysis or implementation phase. You will be using what package, on the basis of which you will be required to assemble your team of coders, implementers. Analysis team will be available, but later on decisions are going to change the scenario in the implementation of team. Similar kinds of features. As you grow in the hierarchy, you will be required to assimilate or show a behavior, a basic description of the job which you are required to do. And that is why this is one of the most essential component which you must at least understand today. Once you are ready with the job description, the process of recruitment has to take over. Probably this is one process where you may not be involved immediately, but everything will be worked onto your descriptions. But what is the process of recruitment? Yes, probably this is the process you will be experiencing. You will be going through the process of identifying the prospective employees, stipulating and encouraging them to apply for a particular job or jobs in an organization. The basic definition of recruitment is known to everybody, but that is recruit people. But in addition, a very fantastic point has been stated by the definition. That is, we encourage people to apply for that particular job through the process of recruitment. If you are going for multinational, you are enthused, you are motivated to join that particular job. You are stimulated in a particular way. You are told, or you follow the process of recruitment in a particular way that you get excited about that particular job. That is precisely the point. Selection. The process of securing relevant information about an applicant to evaluate his qualifications, experience, and other qualities with a view to matching these with the requirements of a job. Now, that process of selection you undergo. At present you will undergo. So these details are even more important for you because you will be going through this particular process immediately after completing maybe your HND. Whenever you get your HND certificate, you might like to do something of that kind. Selection. It's basically matching the job description with your experiences, exposures, and the things, whatever projection you have to make. What is the process of selection then? Well, in a truly idealized environment, the process of selection will start with the preliminary interview, where you will be told that this is the basic job. You come up with your basics. Yes, I have done this job. I know. Okay, I want to take up a job of, let's say, Java developmental programmer. Okay, and you immediately come up. Yes, I have done so many projects in this particular place. I have so much of experience in this particular area. Okay, I have been working on so many projects throughout my 3 years of graduate program. Like that, you come up with your answers, basics, and on the basis of that, you go further or not. That particular thing is decided. I'll give you a very simple, very interesting example of one of your colleague who happened to be our student, and how he went through the process of the preliminary. He just went into an organization. It was a multinational organization. He went there, he explained to them. He was not called for anything. It was just, it was come for the interview kind of a thing. He went there, he sat there watching people doing various things, and then came up, sir, this is my preliminary things. Would you like to take me? They say, we only take IITs. We only take graduate engineers. But anyway, since you have come all the way and you are motivated, try. Very positive nature, just a preliminary introduction, and he crosses the first hurdle. Next, then he was allowed to fill the application form, and basic scrutiny was done However, he was lucky enough to pass that particular stage. Then there was a second interview. He was called for the second interview immediately. It did not take long. He was just called by the personal manager to check his level of motivations. Whatever he is claiming is correct or not. The fourth stage, and that is testing. You see how small things matter in any job-oriented situation. He went through the process of testing, and there were written tests, subject specialty test. So first he took a test in C. He did reasonably well, and they had already committed that we are not going to take you, so he was feeling quite confident. Okay, even if they are not going to take me, let me try my best shot. He gave reasonably okay test. Next, he kept on waiting for some more time. Then he realized there is a C++ test going on. He said, "Sir, why don't you allow me to appear for C++ test?" "Fine, come and join." Appeared for C++, gave excellent performance in that. The third test started. It was of Java. He said, "Sir, why don't you allow me in that also?" He was allowed. He appeared for Java and cracked the test. Now that was the time there was a sudden change in the attitude of the people. Because over a period of time, he has shown how motivated he is, and his ability to look into, and his ability to perform despite being told a very, very negative factor. That's what is the essence. Anyway, the process goes on. Process is to go on with the work history. Process goes on with the references. Process goes on with the physical examination, recommendations, and interview with the supervisor. Finally, my gentleman friend, after going through all those 4-5 stages, he was called for the interview. He was called for the final interview. There was a technical person sitting there. He examined it for 1 hour. Took interview for an hour minimum. Kept on discussing so many things with him, technically, problem solving oriented, everything. And finally, right now he's in Singapore. Now let us discuss something more about selection tests. And fortunately he went through just a selection test which was just in the nature of technical in nature. But there are many more types of selection tests which exist. So let us discuss something more about selection test. What is a selection test? It's a sample of an aspect of an individual's behavior, performance, or attitude. A systematic procedure for comparing the behavior of 2 or more persons. So it's a very, very solid, or it's a very good way of judging the performance across. The only problem with all these things goes that your test should be a good and valid test. That means job description once again plays the key role in designing the selection test. If you have not done the job description properly, your whole process is going to be doomed. Now let us look into some theoretical aspect, and that is types of tests. Achievement of intelligence test, or in fact it should be or intelligence test, also called proficiency test. What does they do? Measures skill or knowledge acquired as a result of a training program and or on-job experience. Second, aptitude or potential ability test. Measure the ability of a candidate to learn a new job or skill. Whatever you are trying to do in IGNOU is related to these 2 tests. you are developing your intelligence. Not only that, you are also developing the aptitude and potential ability, in the sense that you are trying to enhance things. You try to read of your own. You try to solve the day-to-day problems with the counseling, whatever level of counseling given to you. You are developing the ability to learn a new job or skill. The more you groom yourself into this kind of a thing, the better will be as far as future-wise it is concerned. The test's individual's value system helps in assessing a person's motivation and his ability to adjust himself to the stress of everyday life. Your personality is growing. You, after facing problem, try to come up with solutions. Complaining is one of the way of getting to the solutions. But I have seen people, the way as groups you are cooperating and coming up with solutions after facing problems. It's extremely good. It's overall personality development. Interest test, designed to discover a person's interest and to identify the kind of work that satisfies him. Number 2, used for vocational guidance and are assessed in form of answers to a well-formed questionnaire. Well, this particular test you might have already gone through at your 10th level, 12th level, and before the job there might be some assessment what kind of a thing you would like to take. So these are the basic testing mechanism or testing types, and invariably one of these testing types you have to go through. Okay. Now, one of the things which I was trying to tell you earlier, that when do we know that whatever is you are being tested is correct or not? Well, it has a major impact from the job description is concerned, but there are many more points. Let us look into those. What we say is testing will be proper if norms should be developed as a source of reference on all tests, okay, on all tests used in selection and on a representative sample of people on a given job in the same organization, even though standard tests exist. So all the companies are expected to develop their own testing mechanism, and they need to validate that testing mechanism on their already employed people or a group or clientele of the students already who have gone through this particular process. Therefore, you will find all the companies will come up with different kinds of testing procedures. Next, provided warm up by giving sample of tests. Well, this is what companies don't do. They don't provide you any warm up or sample test. They simply test you. So you should be ready with the basics, what we are trying to do right now. Test is validated for a given organization. Once again, this is the same point which I am trying to make. Okay, that a test should be validated for the organization. What else? Each test is assigned a weightage in selection. If you don't give weightage to a particular test, there are problems. People don't take it seriously. Test scoring, administration, and interpretation should be done by persons having technical competence and training in testing. Mostly training in testing is one of the things which is essential, and I think this is where everybody is experiencing a new domain. Okay. For example, your HND, the assignments, where we have criteria for pass, merit, distinction. And these 3 grades are to be awarded on the basis of what is given into the details mentioned in those pass, merit and distinction, which is relating to the problem, the criteria which are given. Right? Now that's a process where everybody is getting the training. It's a new way of testing. People are getting trained in it. Okay? Next, if we are dealing with selection process and we have gone through the testing process, what is the next important domain or next important thing which we have to do here? Well, you got to face the interview. Interview is performed. Why it is performed? For obtaining information, for giving information, and for motivating. Well, many of you may do counter argument on it. How the information is given? You are always given a chance. You are always given a chance if exists, if you are going to be selected. You are asked if you have any question to ask. Okay? Motivation. The quality of people who are interviewing you normally provides you ample of motivation, whether you would like to do that particular job or not. If the kind of questions which have been posed to you are good, relevant, intelligent, you're motivated. Very good way, extremely good way, but it has to be groomed properly, used properly. Right? Then we go to the types of interview. Informal can happen anywhere. You interview us on many of issues relating to you. So that's an informal one. Formal. Well structured questions are asked. Time and space are stipulated. Your viva voce is just a form. Okay? Planned interviews. Now this is, we have given a different definition here. Less planned than patterned. So what is then patterned? Patterned interview means list of questions are asked one by one. A list of questions is prepared and those questions are repeatedly asked. I mean, the questionnaire is there and keep on asking you and keep on checking your behavior. Probably required if a particular pattern is to be seen. Jury, if it wants to ascertain certain facts out of you, a type of questionnaire or questions are planned, fired to you one by one. Authenticity. Many deep authenticity come out of you. Cross questions come in a very, very systematic way. Next one. Non-directive interview. Freedom to speak. You are allowed to say what you want, what you have. Depth interview. In depth, you go through subject knowledge in a very, very deep sense. You will be going through the depth interview, definitely. Stress interview. In Indian conditions, most of the time, you go through a stress condition or stress interview condition where the person sitting on the other side of the bench tries to test you whether you can perform in those distressful conditions. I don't know whether it is intentional or not, but many students have come to me complaining, sir, I was literally grilled. Now that's what it is. Subject-wise, fine. You show depth of knowledge. Still you are grilled with so many things. This is what is it required? Probably yes. After all, the way you have to go through your job is this kind of a testing is very much essential. The pressures are many. Whether you can cope up with those? Yes. Group interview, the group discussions. Okay. Panel interview. This is the most common kind of interview which is experienced by we people, because there is a group of people who try to examine you in many different aspects. They are experts of different areas, and you are expert of probably all the areas. That's how you face them, and you come up with a lot of good answers and get selected, right? Next is how the interviews are rated. Well, interviews rating basically makes physical makeup. Okay, some points are given for your physical appearance too. Health, physique, nobody has control on it. But I'll tell you one instance. One of my colleague, I mean he's not a colleague but distant person known to me, he went for an interview. And the first reaction of the interviewee were, "You are too fat, you are not fit for the job." Does not mean that, does not mean that fat people are not employed or like that. But the appearance count. You don't know who is sitting at the other side of it. So you should get properly dressed up for an interview when you face an interview board or panel. Age, appearances, yes, they count because there are certain kinds of job which are meant for specific age only. Okay, so they count. Appearances, if you are looking for some kind of receptionist oriented thing, appearances count. The first impression, yes, you should be smart enough to give a very good first impression. So everything counts. But once again, the basis is job description. For you people, what counts is that you're good enough, that you're smartly dressed, you're able to speak well, that counts. Attainment, education, occupation, training and experiences. That is whatever you have attained. Okay? Intelligence, how intelligent you are. What is intelligence? Intelligence is nothing but applying the knowledge, whatever you have, into a new situation. That's how I interpret intelligence to be. You have learned so many good things, so many problem solving techniques, so many problem decomposition and then breaking the problem into various constituents and solving it kind of a things. And then coding it even. Right? How you can apply that knowledge, experience which you have gained into a new situation. Very important. Special aptitudes, written and oral fluency of expression. Now, common skills. What are those? Those are your special aptitudes, and we check how good you are in those. So that when you go to the industry, you can perform, you can show that you have so much good skills with you. 17. Okay, how many of those have you attained? Have you got an excellent grade? If not, start today. There is nothing, there is no time waste. Whatever time you have put is useful, but whatever you will be putting in the future, it should be even more worthwhile based on your previous experiences. Interests, intellectual, practical, physical, physically active, social, artistic. Now that's a classification which is given to you. Most of you will come into the category of intellectuals and practical. Both of this apply to you. Physically active, probably you may or may not get a job. Okay. Disposition. Maybe physically active is required for, let's say, marketing kind of person. Disposition. Self-reliance, nature, motivations, acceptability. How you change according to different situations in the changed environment. What is your nature? Do you depend on yourself, or Somebody need to be present. A boss is always need to be present with you to guide. Extremely important points. Domestic, social background and experience, future prospects. I think this is the point where I would not like to comment many things. You yourself are knowledgeable enough to comment on those. Are there any limitations as far as interviews are concerned? Well, yes. The main being, or in fact the chief limitations are the prejudice. One characteristics of candidate may dominate appraisal. This happens. And believe it or not, if you are able to demonstrate good communication skills, in most likelihood, many other factors are ignored, not seen, and you get a job. So, give lot of emphasis on common skills. Okay? Presentation skills, oral as well as written. And definitely subject matter knowledge matters. But sometimes at the time of interview, because the time span is too short, you just overcome that kind of a deficiency. Induction and orientation. So once you are into everything, once you are into the job, you need to be introduced to that particular job. For that, induction program or the orientation program is done. Induction introduces an employee to a job to make employee feel proud of his association with the company. It's very important. You feel pride, you take pride in the company, you're bound to perform better. What should be the things related to induction program? Should cover the company, its history and products, process of production and major operations. This is a very important point. I was talking to a gentleman who was a marketing person in Zodiac, let's say. And then when I talked to him about the company, he could able to give me the historical details, the details that what kind of productions their company is doing, where they are doing. As a marketing person, is he supposed to know all these things? Probably yes. Significance of job, structure of organization and various functions, employees department and its job. So all these things, if I know, gives a very good impression. In addition, what should we know in the orientation or induction program? Personal policy and sources of information. Where, if I'm stuck, where will I get additional information? Company policies, practices, objectives, regulations, term and conditions of services, amenities, welfare facilities. These are all general. So I'm going through them, rushing through in fact. Rules and regulations about hours of work, safety and accident prevention. Grievance procedures and discipline handling. Social benefits and recreation services, opportunities, promotions, transfers, suggestion schemes and job satisfaction. So all these things should be told to you. Only then your orientation is considered to be complete. If company is not telling you, I think then it becomes your responsibility, knowing fully well that what should you know before you actually go through the process of companies. Most of the good companies have a process of induction, and they train you for first 1 to 2 months and brief you about all these things in a very, very great details. This induction basically is a 3-step process. And what are the basic 3 steps? They are general orientation by the staff. So you are generally introduced to rules, regulation and everything. Specific orientation by job supervisor. In this particular case, it will be your project leader who will be detailing you what kind of jobs you are supposed to do, how you are supposed to do, and so on and so forth. I think many of you might be aware about the term called capability maturity model. Follow-up orientation, the third point, by personnel department or the supervisor. This is once again done in order to consolidate your concepts, that is briefing and probably refocusing on some of the basic aspects. Right? So now what we have reached to is, in a nutshell, what we have described is the process of recruitment. And it is very essential for you to know all these things, because number one, you will be going through that particular process, and number two, in the future you will be using this knowledge to take interviews or organizing for recruitment, right? The next key concept which we should talk about the staff management is the motivation. In fact, that is a concept with such an importance that many an organizational things are devoted for this particular aspect. Now, what is motivation? Let us look into it in somewhat more details. What is the literary meaning? Incitement or inducement to act or move. But that is a verbal meaning. Actually, industry means to make a subordinate act in a desired manner. Act in disciplined, efficient and productive manner. That's a very, very simple definition of motivation. But why the motivation is needed? Is it same as incentive? Well, motivation is not same as incentives. In incentives, we generally expect greater output with the same input, while motivation may involve some more inputs considered necessary for changing the work, attitude and behavior. Very heavy definition. But you are doing BIT. There is a strong motivation behind it. That there are two basic motivations. Number one, you are doing a course where there are great chances of getting a good job. Number two, on completion of your HND, you are getting a certificate which is given by Edexcel UK, and the chances of your admission outside after that are pretty bright. So you have a lot of motivation, and you are developing yourself. It's not that same input is being given. You are getting more and more inputs. What are the types of motivations? Well, they are intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic relates to the job one is doing, the job satisfaction you get. You solve a problem, don't you get the satisfaction? You solve an assignment, do it yourself, you get so much of accomplishment feeling. That's motivation. Extrinsic, external to the job or task. For example, financial incentives, public citation and awards, admiration of fellow workers. You get A grade. You do an excellently well assignment. You get an excellent response. Motivating. Determination of motivation. How do we determine it? Motivation is result of three groups of factors. Individual. It differs. If you want to determine motivation of a particular person, it really depends on several factors, and it changes. Some factors are individual. Must know the aims, objective and values of employees. Human needs are both numerous and complex. Your motivation from individual to individual, it differs. Some people are just interested in. Then we have organizational components, where organizational structure, technological system, some technologies are very easy to work to and enjoyable to, some are not. Facilities, all these things affect motivation. External variables. A strong role played by culture, custom and norms. If somebody else is doing it, I must do the same. That's not the right thing. especially when you are trying to do learning. Okay. Yes, if he is learning more, you learn better. That is a good thing. Who can be considered a motivated worker? Well, a motivated worker is the one who wants to come to work and work willingly, who comes for the sessions, solves his own assignments. When at work, he gives his best, doesn't do too many chattings, emailings, unnecessarily emailings, devote his time to actual learning activities, has a definite sense of belonging and pride in organization and the improvement of management effectiveness. Now then comes, are there any theories of motivation? How we can give it? Is there anything we can do about it? There is one theory which we will be discussing in more detail, and that is Maslow's need hierarchy, which is closely related to motivation. H. Maslow and Friedrich Herzberg provided the intellectual basis of most of the motivation. They were the key scientists, and they have published work which is called Bible of Motivation. What did they do? They categorized the human needs into 5 categories. These are physiological, safety, social, ego, and self-realization. What are the attributes of these 5 basic needs? Lowest level need is physiological and highest is self-realization. As the lower level needs are satisfied, higher needs emerge. Higher needs cannot be satisfied unless lower needs are fulfilled. A satisfied need is not a motivator. An unsatisfied need is a motivator. Look into the lines. The line says self-realization, which basically lead to probably asceticism, creativity. Let's look into the first, physiological or body needs. Nourishment, clothing, shelter, all of you are getting it, and you'll keep on getting it if you get a job. Must be equated with pay rates, pay practices, and physical conditions of the job. Definitely sometimes you get hurt if somebody else is getting more than having the similar kind of job profile. So at least there should be some parity in this particular thing. The next goes the safety needs. Now what do we mean by safety needs? Need to be free from dangers from other people or environment. Individual need to be assured that they are secure. It may take the form of job security, security against disease, misfortune, old age, generally met by safety laws, measures of social security, protective labor laws, and collective agreements. The first thing is you try to have some kind of security, and as you grow up in the ladder of management, the security needs become less and less. Social needs. Individuals feel the need to desire to work in a cohesive group and develop a sense of belonging and identification with a group. Extremely important to have. Every employee feel that he is wanted. That is what you must make. You must make an environment of conducive for work where you pay all the importance to all the employees. Ego or esteem need. Desire for status and recognition, respect and prestige in the work group or place. You feel it at your even study centers or your telelearning centers. It can be conferred by recognition of one's merit, by promotion, by participation in management, and by the fulfillment of a worker's urge for self-expression. You are given a chance of self-expression, you feel definitely good. Self-realization or self-actualization needs. When satisfied, the employee give up dependence on others or on environment, becomes growth-oriented, self-directed, detached, and creative. In an organization, one seldom achieves self-actualization. It's very difficult to achieve in an organization. Probably they do not want to bring you to that particular stage. They want you to be under a lot of controls. So that's what may be one of the reasons. Create proper motivational climate. How to do it? Create condition where workers' energy are not expended totally in meeting their basic needs. Companies do that. They try to arrange for you housing and all those things. Create a climate for interdependent work rather than dependency. You should not depend on your manager. However, your work is interdependent. It is your work and somebody else's work should be some way, should lead to actual problem solving, solution. They are interdependent with each other. Create a competitive climate through recognition of good work. The more competitive the environment is, the better your performance may be. Create a productive climate through personal examples. As a manager or as a boss, you should create this. Fortunately, in computer science and software engineering groups are very, very cohesive. Create a climate of approach and problem solving rather than avoidance. Develop the software engineering problem-oriented domain. Take the problems so that you solve it. Don't be afraid of errors, mistakes. If you are trying to solve a problem, they are bound to occur. Motivate individually through guidance and counseling. Everybody should be motivated in a true sense. What do we mean by performance appraisal? So now you have been motivated, you have got a job, your performance is to be appraised. That is the time this particular thing will be required. So we go through it very quickly. Is the process through which an individual employee's behavior and accomplishment for a fixed time period are measured and evaluated. Major purpose is to access the worth and value. So once you have been employed, you have been motivated enough, what is your worth now? Systematic and objective way of judging the relative worth of or ability of an employee in performing his task. Reviews an individual performance and progress in job and assessing his potential for future improvements. So this is an extremely important thing. What are the basic objectives of performance appraisal? Basically needed for efficient management of business organizations, needed by the manager to help an employee's performance, needed by the job holder to assist him to evaluate his performance and develop himself. What are the basis of appraisal? Well, they are work quality, reliability, cooperation, job knowledge, initiative, attitude, safety conscious, attendance, learning ability, health and physical condition, adaptability, judgment and responsibility, and it is recommended to select the performance criteria on the basis of job. In today's session, we have discussed about the job description, the process of recruitment, the various factors relating to motivation, and finally we talked about the performance appraisal. With this, I'd like to close down this session. Bye for now.